Hi everyone, Ollie here. I hope you are well. We are back, and today I will be showing you, as you may be able to guess by my horrible Christmas jumper, a Christmas recipe. We're going to be learning how to make gingerbread biscuits. So super festive and very, very simple. I'm not much of a baker myself, so if I can do it, you definitely can. It's very simple in terms of the ingredients. It's just a question of weighing out the quantities. The method is super easy. We're also going to be pairing that with a lovely mulled apple kind of mulled cider take. Really nice alternative to mulled wine. Again, super warming, super festive, and goes really well with the cookies. There's a lot of those kind of classic Christmas spices in there: cinnamon, cloves, etc. A bit of ginger, obviously with the gingerbread. So they go really, really well together. So I will talk you through the ingredients and then I will show you how to make them. So I am going to go for half quantities this time, which makes around 8 biscuits. I've been developing this recipe and we've been eating a lot of gingerbread in the house, so I'm going to keep it a little bit kind of less voluminous today. So this should make around 8 biscuits or so, but if you want to follow the original recipe, that will make double that. So I am going to go for our kind of wet ingredients first, if you like. The method for this is just we bung them all in the pan, so it could not be easier, and as I say, it's more about weighing them out. So we're going to start with 100 grams of butter, and as I say, this is half quantity, so if you want to make kind of 16, they're really good to make in a batch, and then you can even give them to people as well. It's really, really good. I'm just going to do half today. So for the half quantity, I'm going to do 100 grams of butter, 100 grams of our soft brown sugar, which is up here. Either light or dark soft brown sugar is absolutely fine. And we are then going to go, if I can find it, with some golden syrup. So I'm going to go for 70 grams of this. You can use honey here as an alternative if you want to, but golden syrup is kind of the classic recipe. And we're also going to add in our spices as well. So ground ginger, obviously you've got to have ginger in gingerbread. We're going to go for 2 teaspoons of that and 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. You can at this point add a little touch of ground cloves if you like, because again, a lot of these kind of spices are very classic Christmas spices, so a little bit of that in here goes really, really nicely. All we're going to do with those is bung them into a pan, bring that up to a boil. Again, kind of start off on a medium heat, let that all incorporate, and then we'll bring that mixture to the boil, and then we'll take it off the heat and add our bicarbonate of soda. It's important at this stage to use a really large pan if you have one, because when we add in the bicarbonate of soda, it's going to bubble up, and you don't want that to go everywhere, because I promise you that will be a nightmare to clean. So big pan, add all of those ingredients in, and I will show you what happens when we add the bicarb. So those ingredients are now thoroughly combined in the saucepan. I'll try and show you. You can see there it's kind of this lovely thick syrupy consistency. They're all combined. We're going to take that off the heat now. And we are going to add in our bicarbonate of soda. So I have got half a teaspoon here, again double quantities for those that are making extra. And what you should see happen, we're going to add this in, we're going to mix it up, and you should see this mixture that's in the pan kind of balloon up. So I will try and capture that on camera as best as possible, but bicarb is going in. We are giving that a stir through, and hopefully you can see it reacting. It's kind of got this weird, almost sort of souffle-like consistency. The bicarb is reacting with all of those syrups and sugars and the heat as well, and it's going almost kind of jellified. Hopefully it's difficult to show you on the camera, but you can see there it's kind of almost like a souffle. You can see there's loads of air in there. So we're going to leave that now off the heat to cool for around 5 or 10 minutes, at which time we will come back and tackle our dry ingredients. So leave that to cool and I will show you what to do next. Okay, so that mixture has had about 5 or 10 minutes just to cool down in temperature slightly. It looks a little bit like honeycomb if you've ever had that before. It's kind of very poofed up because of the bicarbonate of soda, and it's holding a lot of air within that. So what we're going to do is add the flour and the egg in now. So we're going to sift in our flour. You can do this straight into the pan, it's not a problem. We're going to kind of bring it all together in the pan as well. So I'm going to add the flour in with a sieve just to make sure it keeps its kind of nice and light consistency. So we're adding this in, and again it's important to make sure that the mixture's cooled by this point so you don't burn your hands when we come to mix it in. That flour is just going to get sieved in, every last bit of it on the there you go. Try not to make a mess of your hob like I do. We're going to mix that in along with our beaten egg as well. Again, I have gone for 250 grams of flour here, 500 grams for the double quantities, and I've got half an egg here, so a whole egg for the double quantities. We're going to stir this in, and the really important thing here is not to overwork the dough. We don't want it to be too kind of brittle. Again, we're going to add in our egg at this stage as well, and just bring that together. Mix it until it's just combined, and once we've got to that stage, we're going to transfer it to some cling film, and it's then going to rest in the fridge to kind of firm up once we've got to that stage. So I will mix this together and I will show you the end result. We're going to pour it into some cling film, let it into the fridge to cool. So you can see, if I show you, that gingerbread has just come together. So again, it's really important not to overwork that. We are going to dump that out into our cling film, and as I say, we're just going to pop that into the fridge to cool down and set up a little bit. We don't need to worry about greasing the cling film because obviously we've got quite a lot of butter in there already. So that is our gingerbread done and dusted. That's going to go into the fridge now for about an hour. You can see it's very kind of pliable at the moment. We want that to firm up, much easier to roll at a later stage. So we are going to pop that into the fridge, and in the meantime I will show you what we can do to get on with our mulled apple. So the next stage is to make our mulled apple. Again, really simple, could not be easier. The first thing we're going to do is toast our spices. So in terms of which spices to use, it very much is up to you. I like to go for, again, fairly classic Christmassy ones here. We've got some cloves here. We've got some star anise, we're going to put one of them in. A few cardamom pods, which are maybe not as traditional, but are really nice flavours to go with these kind of more classic Christmas spices and goes really well with apple. We are going to use some cinnamon sticks as well, again to give it that classic Christmassy feel. And we're basically going to toast all of those in the pan. All this does is it just kind of wakes up their flavour before we add in our apple juice. So add in your spices. I'm going to go for probably 3 or 4 cloves, 2 cardamom pods, 1 star anise and a big cinnamon stick. Toast them off. As soon as you start to smell them, we're going to add in our apple juice. We're going to start off by toasting our spices. So while those spices are toasting, just give them a little stir every now and then to make sure that they're not kind of catching. You can use whatever spices you like here. Again, the classic Christmassy ones I think are best, and it's just worth bearing in mind obviously that it's going with apple, which is quite a sweet flavour, so I think you can be a little bit more adventurous in terms of some of the spices. Possibly some sumac might even be nice, you know, really is up to you. But those are the ones that I've gone with. What we're going to do now while those spices are toasting off is prepare our other aromatics. So I am going to go for the peel of an orange and a little bit of lemon peel as well. I'm also going to chop up some ginger, so you don't need to worry about taking the skin off this. Again, we're just going to let these infuse, so it's not really we're not going to be eating any of these. So just chop up a few slices of ginger can be really rough and ready, just kind of little bits like that. Again, that's just going to help kind of infuse the apple flavour. We're then going to take a kind of peeler and just grab a little bit of our fruit peel. So you can see there, just a big old wedge of orange. Do a few of those, and again, same with the lemon. And then once those spices are toasted off, Zach. Okay, so while our spices are toasting off, just keep an eye on those, keep them moving around, and as soon as you can start to smell them, we're going to turn the heat off. We're going to prep our aromatics in the meantime. We're going to use some ginger. Doesn't matter about peeling this, you can just kind of chop it up rough and ready into little slices like that. These are going to be dropped in and they're basically going to infuse into the apple, so it's just nice kind of background flavours basically. We are also going to use the peel of an orange and a lemon. So just take a potato peeler like that and just go kind of round the outside, taking strips of orange. Again, we're not going to be eating these, so it doesn't matter. Rough and ready is absolutely fine. And once those spices are good and toasty, they're really smelling lovely actually, we're going to remove that from the heat. They've kind of done their work, if you like. We're going to let that cool for a little bit, then we're going to add in our apple juice and our aromatics, as well as our booze. So booze-wise, you can add in kind of whatever you like, really. I personally quite like kind of a dark rum, again, the spice theme going on, or possibly like a nice kind of bourbon or whiskey can be really nice. Equally, it's just as tasty without any alcohol if you prefer not to drink, so very much an optional addition, the alcohol there. But yeah, we're going to let this pan cool down, add in our apple, add in our aromatics, and then bring that back up to the boil. And once that's boiling, we're going to turn it off and let it sit and infuse for anywhere from kind of 30 minutes up to, you know, a few days really. It really is kind of, the longer you leave it, the stronger those aromatic flavors will become. So I will show you what it looks like when we've got all of that in. Again, I wish there was smell-o-vision invented so you could smell what the kitchen is like at the moment, but you'll have to make it yourself to find out. So I will show you what it looks like all together. So that is what it looks like with all of the aromatics in there. We are just bringing that back up to a boil. We're then going to give it a taste and see what it's like in terms of acidity, in terms of sweetness. I really like adding a little bit of orange juice and if needs be a little bit of lemon juice as well, just to balance it out. We've obviously got the rum to go in as well. And then once that's all there, we are going to pop the lid on and leave that to steep and infuse for, as I say, anywhere from kind of 30 minutes to, you know, several days. The longer you leave it, the stronger those flavors will get. So I will show you what that looks like at the end. So the smell coming out of this kitchen at the moment is just unbelievable. That is up to the boil now, so hopefully you can see that. Well, you can certainly see the steam there. So all I'm going to do now is pop that off the heat and give it a little stir and a little taste. It's worth bearing in mind, obviously, that at the moment when we taste it, those aromatics and those flavors that we've added haven't necessarily had you know, a great deal of time to infuse. We are going to give it a little taste. If it needs sweetening, obviously you can add, you know, your brown sugars that we've got up there, some honey, golden syrup, whatever similar ingredients that we used previously. If it needs a touch more acidity, a little bit of lemon juice can be really nice, so have a little taste and play with it. I think that's pretty good actually. It's kind of sweet, but then a little bit of tartness from the lemon juice and that kind of natural apple flavour. It does, however, need a little bit longer for those flavours to kind of mingle and get to know each other. So all we're going to do now is pop the lid on and leave that to steep and steep and infuse rather off the heat for I'm probably going to leave that for 30 minutes, an hour or so, by which point our gingerbread will be ready, and all we need to do to serve that is just bring that back up to the heat, get a little ladle and pour it into our mug or glass. So that is our mulled cider done. Our gingerbread is chilling. Once the gingerbread is ready and ready to be rolled out, I will show you what to do with that. So now that the mulled cider is doing its thing, we can turn our attention back to the gingerbread dough. It's important once it's been in the fridge to take it out and let it kind of come back up to room temperature. Should do with around kind of 30 minutes of chilling in the fridge, I think should be okay. And then once it's back up to room temperature, we can get to rolling it. So a couple of tips for this stage. Firstly, try not to add any flour or as little flour as possible. That will make it kind of slightly tougher, the final product. So if you can, try and avoid adding flour. A really good way to help it avoid sticking is by using baking paper. So we will use this in a bit to do our piping bag, but hopefully you can see that on the screen there. I'm just going to put the dough between the two sheets of baking paper, and we're going to then roll out kind of on top of that. So using the baking paper as the dividing tool. We're going to roll that out to around the thickness of a kind of probably 2 mil thick, I'd say, slightly thicker than a pound coin. Once we've got that, I will show you what we do in terms of cutting out the shapes. So I'm afraid I'm out of screen for this one, but you can see we have our lovely gingerbread dough. You can see super thin, as I say, around 2 mil or so thick. All we're going to do now is begin our cutting process. So if you have cookie cutters, then that's absolutely fine. I'm just going to use a kind of small paring knife like this. If you have a bread knife, a butter knife, sorry, that will work absolutely fine. And it really is up to you as to what shape you want. So I'm going to start by doing a little Christmas tree shape. And another thing that is really good is to use some glasses. So glass will kind of push right through this. So if you want a kind of large shape like that to do like a ball or something, you can pretty much just press that down and you can see it comes out there. Just be careful to pop it out, but you can see that's pretty much your shape there, done and dusted. So leave it in like that, and what we're going to do is basically peel the excess gingerbread away. You can absolutely use that again, roll it out again, and make more biscuits with it. So I'm going to cut out a few kind of different shapes here, and we'll show you what they look like in the end product. So in terms of the shapes, you really can kind of get fairly creative with it. I'm going to try and show you without it you can see there I've gone for a few kind of circles, can just decorate those as you like. A star there, these are all just cut with a knife, so just kind of using a little sawing motion like that, you can work like that. I'm sure all of you are far more artistic than I am. Got a little Christmas tree on that side there and a little present there. So it really is up to you as to what you want to do with them. What we're going to do now, and hopefully this will work okay, is kind of peel the excess gingerbread away, and we should then be left with, if everything comes out as expected. If it crumbles a bit, don't worry, you can re-roll that out later, but just kind of peel the excess gingerbread away and you should be left with your shapes. Conveniently, and here's the trick, they're already on a piece of baking paper, so we're able to just literally slide over. I'm just being very careful here when taking the excess away. Should be able to kind of just slide over that piece of baking paper, and just last few bits coming off. There you go, onto a sheet of baking paper. So there are your shapes. I'm quite pleased with those actually. I'm not very artistic myself, so I'm sure you can do a lot better. But there are your shapes. All we're going to do now is transfer that onto a baking sheet and stick it in the oven, and I will show you what to do when we get to that stage. I should say as well that you can absolutely kind of scrunch all of this excess gingerbread back up, do exactly the same process with some new kind of parchment paper on both sides, and re-roll that out and continue to cut shapes. Certainly don't want to throw that away, that's more potential gingerbread goodness, so I'm going to do that off camera, and I will show you the baking stage next. So you can see that I have transferred my biscuits onto a baking tray. If you have them, these kind of double bottomed ones are really good. It just helps them kind of stop burning, but if not, then a normal baking sheet is absolutely fine. They are going to go into a preheated oven at around 160 degrees for between 6 to 10 minutes. It really does kind of vary if you like them slightly chewier. I'd say kind of on the 6-minute side if you want it a little bit more kind of crisp like a biscuit, then leave it a little bit longer, but between 6 to 10 minutes, after which time you can take them out and put them on a cooling rack basically, or just you know, anything that you've got a little bit of airflow underneath just allows them to cool down a little bit quicker. We're going to let those cool and then I will show you how to ice them. So they're going to go into the oven now, and in the meantime I will show you how to make our icing to go over the top of them, and a little nifty trick in terms of making your own piping bag as well. They're going into the oven now for 6 to 10 minutes at 160 degrees. Okay, so next up we are going to make our icing sugar. So we have got 250 grams of icing sugar there, and that is just going to get sifted into a bowl. The reason we do this is just to avoid there being any kind of large clumps of icing sugar. So if it's possible, I can see it's kind of steaming up a little bit now. Try not to inhale too much of it, but that is going to get sifted, and we are going to mix that with 1 egg white, and a teaspoon of water as well, and hopefully that should give you the right consistency. I'll show you what it looks like in the end, but sift in 250 grams of icing sugar, 1 egg white and a little splash of water, about a teaspoon should do it, and mix that all together, and I will show you what the end product looks like shortly. So once all of that is mixed, you can see we have kind of slightly stiff but just slightly spreadable consistency of icing. It might be that you need to add another teaspoon of water or so. Just keep adding water, literally kind of almost drop by drop, until you get your kind of preferred consistency. We want something that's thick and basically that we're going to be able to pipe, but that holds a line when we drape it. So that's our icing done. I will now show you how we can make our very own piping bag using just parchment paper. So with our icing made, we are now going to turn our attention to our DIY piping bag. So hopefully you can all see that there. First thing we're going to do is make a square of parchment paper. So the easiest way to do that is just to fold one corner down until you have points that line up. Just make a little crease like that and just get rid of any excess that you have with these scissors. So I'm just going to chop that there. It doesn't have to be kind of exactly precise, but the closer we can get it to the real thing, the more accurate our final product will be. We then have a square with a nice kind of crease in the middle like that, so we're just going to cut along that crease there. If the paper will play ball. And again, as accurate as you can get it. It's a test of my hands now, and whether or not it's going to play ball on camera. There you go, quick as a flash. So we've then got our 2 triangles. We just take one of those. We basically want to join these 3 corners up, and the way we do that is to kind of fold and sort of wrap it around each other. So you can see there's already that cone forming. Wrap around each other and kind of just take it so that that point is just slightly further. What we're looking for is essentially a kind of W at the end. So just those corners very nearly joining like that, and you can see we've already got that kind of cone shape coming along there. And we just want to do exactly the same with the other corner. So this kind of bit that's dangling round, wrap that round, drag it up to the top like that. And you can see there we've got that sort of W shape that we're looking for, and a lovely tight cone at the end there, which is what's going to be essentially the nozzle of our piping bag. With the W like that, you just want to take all of those corners and fold them over each other. So this is the part now where we're trying to kind of hold it all in place basically. So you can see there, that's what it looks like from the other side. They're all folded over like that. And one final trick to kind of help it stay in place is just to do a little tear at 2 different points and just fold that down the other way, like so. And there you have your very own piping bag. So the only thing that's left to do is just snip the very, very end of that off. Again, just want to leave a kind of very small hole for the icing to come through, allows us to be a bit more delicate with our piping work, but you've got your very own piping bag. So now what we're going to do is fill that with icing, and once the biscuits have cooled, we are going to ice them. See if I can get on camera. Going to fill that, ice them, and it really is up to you as to what kind of decorations you want to use. So I will show you what I'm going to go for. So in true Blue Peter fashion, here are some that I made earlier. You can see they're kind of nice and thick, slightly kind of chewy and crumbly, absolutely lovely. Using our piping bag, you just want to take some of your icing and drop that in there. It should be quite thick, and that's what is gonna give us the chance to kind of hold the lines, I suppose, on the biscuits themselves. So again, just take a little bit of your icing. It's really important as well to not kind of overfill this. The last thing that you want is for the icing to sort of make its way out of the top of the bag, because that can be a real nightmare. So just fill it enough so that you've got it to the bottom there, and then kind of gripping the top like that, you can see that if we give that a little squeeze, you've got the icing coming out there, which is exactly what we want. So in terms of how to ice it, I am not much of an artist myself, but it really is up to you. So for something like this, I would say just kind of going round like this. I'm sure all of you are a lot more creative than I am, and we'll come up with some far better designs. There you go, pretty poor first attempt, but hopefully you can see kind of what the piping bag gives you, and all I'm doing there is just kind of pinching the top and just using the rest to sort of squeeze it out, basically. Again, we'll just go for another sort of shape like that. First one's never the best, as they say with pancakes, so you know, up to you. Might turn this into a little spider's web if you can, but basically you want to finish that off, do whatever designs you fancy for the rest of your biscuits, and then they are pretty much done. All you need to do is leave that icing to set, and then we are good to tuck in. So we are now there. There you can see, hopefully, our gingerbread biscuits. Believe it or not, these are my best ones. I'm sure you can do a lot better, but hopefully gives you an idea of what they can look like. It really is up to you in terms of being as creative as possible. So on a lovely festive plate, the only thing that's left to do now is to bring your mulled cider back up to a boil, just to make it nice and hot, and just to ladle some of that into a mug and enjoy with one of your gingerbread biscuits. So that is it from me. I really hope you have enjoyed the recipe. I am certainly going to enjoy tucking in to these biscuits now. Goes really, really well together. Lovely Christmassy, autumnal, winter flavours. If you have enjoyed this, the main thing we would love to see, and hopefully you can do a lot better than I can, is your designs. Please do send in your designs, tag us at heartssu, at otcooks_eats on Instagram. Would love to see how you get on with these. Hearts, I believe, are very kindly providing little packages as well for you to be able to recreate these on the uni, so please do take advantage of that if you're eligible for that. If not, would really encourage you to give this a go just on your own. The ingredients are really accessible, super easy, and it's just a question of kind of technique to bring it all together. So yeah, tag us in your recreations at otcooks_eats, at heartssu. That's my handle, otcooks_eats, if you wanted to find some more kind of lovely winter warmer recipes. And we will be back with a few more cooking sessions before the new year, so please do tune in for those. But in the meantime, I really hope you've enjoyed this, really hope you give this a go, and a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you all. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.